All right. Staying Fat for Sarah Burns, Chapter 17. You know, actually, this isn't so bad. The last time I got this much media attention, I won the 16 and under 1500-meter freestyle at the Spokane Summer Games 2 summers ago. Orca Swamps Competition, the headline read. They didn't know I already had my Marine moniker. The radio and TV stations also did the story from the weight angle. Summer is slow for sports coverage. But this is better because lying in a hospital bed, my size is not an issue. Hell, that could be anything under those covers. For all they know, I'm in a body cast. And I'm the victim of a major crime. Headlines for the regional section. Ellerby said he'd consider letting someone stick a knife in him for the kind of attention I've been getting. I suggested he let someone be me. I've told my story probably 700 times so far, and it gets better with age. I need to work on the part where I karate kicked the knife out of his hand and it landed in my shoulder, but the rest stands up pretty well. Dale Thornton is getting a kick out of his supporting role, and his dad has told several reporters he's camping out near the main entrance and will personally see Virgil Burns die a slow death before he gets within a mile of my room. The Thorntons like me a lot better as a 2-bit TV star than they did as a 1-bit smartass. That's all very clever, and as long as my mom and Carver and the media and the police and medical folk keep parading through the room, I'm feeling pretty cocky. But when I'm alone, what I feel is lucky to be alive and pretty scared. Old Man Burns has disappeared, and that makes me plenty nervous. But the real danger is to Sarah Burns. The cops are hunting her and Lemry down in Reno, but the hotel they were supposed to stay at hasn't heard of them. Lemry was supposed to call her husband when they arrived in Reno, but he missed her call. So the city cops have their place staked out, and highway patrols in 3 states have been notified to be on the lookout. I just don't want them driving into town not knowing Old Man Burns is on the loose. And hey, I'm thinking of becoming a drug addict. Whatever they're giving me for the pain in my shoulder is not bad. Hey man. Mark Britton stands in my doorway. I'll be gone to hell. Hey man, I say back. You're kind of famous. Guess so. I reach down to the side of the bed to find the button that raises my head. So how you feeling? Okay, I guess, he says. Kind of stupid. I don't know what to say. I can feel that he wants to explain himself, and I don't have it in me to hold him in contempt. I've had time to think. The wound I have is just a hole. His wound is humiliation. I felt both, and they don't compare. I think all this feels some connection, without Mark having said but one sentence. Feeling kind of stupid. I say, we keep this up, there won't be much of a team for regionals. He nods toward my shoulder. You out of it? Looks that way. Doctor says it'll take a while to repair the muscle damage. Needs time, mostly. Mark looks at the floor. I've been watching the news. I heard what Mr. Burns did to his daughter. He must be a pretty scary guy. Off the charts scary. What I said in class. I raised my good hand. Don't worry about it. All that stuff about responsibility? He shakes his head. I've been working with a guy up here. A counselor, he laughs. A therapist. He's not a counselor. I need a therapist. Anyway. I've been thinking wrong. His lower lip quivers, but he smiles through it. I've got a lot of work to do. My dad... Listen, tell Jody... And he closes his eyes. Just tell her I'm sorry, okay? About the abortion and all. I lied, Moby. You know, right before I took the pills. He stops. Jesus, I lied. I start to tell him I understand, though I probably don't completely. But he's gone. When I open my eyes again, a shadowy figure fills the doorway, but I can't focus. These painkillers kill more than pain. I smile and wave and close my eyes, either a couple of minutes or 3 days later when I open them again. The shadowy figure ain't shadowy and has moved to the side of my bed. Lemry says, "Rough weekend?" "Worst on record." Lemry puts her hand on my bad arm. "This doesn't bode well for your swimming career." "Yeah, I don't think I can qualify for the relay. You guys have any luck?" "We found her." "No shit," I say. "You found Sarah Burns' mom?" My excitement isn't matched. "We found her within the first 24 hours, she says. "Only had to walk through the casinos looking." She didn't look much different from the picture Sarah Burns had. My enthusiasm crashed. They found her. But... So what happened? "Well," Lemry says, "we got down there just before midnight. We got a room at Harrah's, which is one of the big hotel casinos. I was beat, but your friend wanted to get on with it. So we spent the next few hours wandering through casinos. We asked around, showed some of the dealers and floor people the picture, but they weren't helpful. I think a lot of people hide out there. I finally talked Sarah Burns into crashing for all of 45 minutes. We checked around in the same random way for a few hours before breakfast back at Harrah's. The hostess at the restaurant kinda started when she saw her, but of course, as Sarah Burns has told me a number of times, that's not unusual. Then I noticed she couldn't take her eyes off Sarah Burns, and she looked very distressed. So I asked to see the picture again, and I looked at it, and I looked at the hostess, and by God, except for the hairdo and a few wrinkles, they looked alarmingly alike. I told Sarah Burns to compare it, and before I knew it, she was out of her seat headed toward her. The woman saw her coming and jumped up and walked toward the door. Sarah Burns hurried, but she walked faster and faster until she was almost running, and Sarah Burns yelled, "Mom!" And the woman broke into a sprint and was through the main entrance and out into the street. By then I was running to catch them. So now Sarah Burns' mom is thrown off her high heels and is running full bore down the sidewalk, panicked and not about to get caught. So I kick it into high gear and shoot past Sarah Burns to get her mom before she can reach the end of the block, because I'm afraid she'll run right out into the street. She sighs and closes her eyes. God, all the poor woman wanted to do was get away from us. I'm so drawn into the story, the pain is gone. What happened? You caught her, right? Lemry laughs. Did I catch her? Was I or was I not the Iowa State 800-meter champion in high school? I stare, surprised. I was. You think swimming is the only sport I know? Not anymore, I say. What did she say? She screamed, "Let me go! Let me go!" But I held on to her arm, trying to calm her and hoping I wasn't going to spend the night in a Reno jail for attempted kidnapping. I told her it was all right, that we just needed to talk, and I called her by name and she didn't dispute me, so I was certain who she was. Then a police car rounded the corner down the block, and she shut up like someone had pulled her plug. By then, Sarah Burns had caught up with us. Julie, that's her mother's name, didn't want police involvement, so she agreed to go with us, and we took her back to our room, where she called down to the restaurant to say she'd become ill and had to get an emergency room. And I guess someone covered for her. So it was really her, I ask? God, what are the chances of that? Not good, Lemry says. So what happened? Lemry sighs. It got ugly. First, her mother tried to deny who she was, even after all we'd just been through. Then she said she split with her husband before Sarah Burns was injured, I think hoping Sarah Burns didn't remember. Sarah Burns got steamed and called her a lying bitch, and they screamed at each other for close to 15 minutes before Julie broke into sobs, and Sarah Burns said she hoped she'd choke to death on her tears. I tried to get control, but it was like trying to stop a dogfight. Sarah Burns kept yelling, Look at me! Look at me, Mother! How could you leave me? How could you do that?" While her mother just sobbed and said how sorry she was. I could see Lemry is moved. She's telling the story as if it's still happening, and her chin quivers. Finally, I called a truce, and we agreed to meet that night back at our room. I was afraid Julie would skip out, but there was no way to get any further until they got apart and had time to think. We just had to take the chance. Though I spent most of the time between preparing Sarah Burns for the possibility that she'd split. But 7 o'clock rolled around, and sure enough, she knocked on the door. It was better this time because Sarah Burns had agreed to be civil long enough to find out what she needed to know. What did her mom say? She said she knew she'd burn in hell for leaving, but that it couldn't be worse than what she'd gone through for the past 14 years. She said she had made a number of suicide attempts at first, but even messed those up. That leaving her daughter was bad enough, but not protecting her in the first place was unforgivable. She said she'd known Virgil was crazy since before they got married, but she couldn't break away from him. Jesus, if she knew he was crazy, why not? One of the eternal mysteries of men and women, Moby. When a person feels worthless, nothing he or she does is surprising. So, how did it end? She didn't come back with you, did she? I wasn't asking, I knew. Lemery shakes her head. She didn't come back with us. Sarah Burns begged her to, told her she could make up for everything by coming back and telling what happened. How crazy her dad was getting and about the hospital, but her mother said no. She didn't believe she could live through the humiliation of a court hearing, that she wanted to, but she just couldn't. She said the next thing Sarah Burns would have to deal with would be her suicide. That pisses me off. What a spineless... Not so fast. She was telling the truth. You have to give her credit for that. This is not a strong woman, Moby. The courage to pull this off is nowhere in her. God, what did Sarah Burns do then? She got quiet. She was very polite, and we ended it. She climbed into bed and went to sleep. Lemery laughed. She went to sleep. I was dead sure she'd try to disappear or hurt herself. So I sat up all night. But she slept until morning, got up and said, let's go. And we came home. That scares me. I've seen Sarah Burns quiet like that. Lemery reads my mind. It made me nervous too, Moby, she says. It was as if she'd given up on the spot. And I was really afraid of what might happen when we got home. I still am. I just hope she's able to put it together in a way that works for her. But I have to tell you, this kind of loss is out of my league. I think she's finished. But then she puts her hand on my arm again and gives me a look into her life. I wish adults could know how important that is to us sometimes. She said, I grew up in a little town in Iowa called Cradle Rock. The big thing there was Little League. Boys and girls played on the same teams, not because the feminist movement was 15 years ahead of its time, but because there weren't enough boys in town to make up the 8 teams. My first team was the Phillips Junior Oilers. The local Phillips 66 station sponsored us. I remember picking up that green t-shirt with the gold lettering across the chest and the cap with a golden P. I was so proud. I wore that cap everywhere. You couldn't wear the shirt anywhere but to games, but you could wear the hat anytime. I was a skinny little girl, not at all pretty, and I knew that. Kids told me all the time. All my life, I hadn't fit. Couldn't think of the clever things to say. I didn't have any possessions anyone wanted, and it seemed I didn't have anything inside me anyone wanted either. Sometimes I look at the pictures of me back then, and I can't believe the monumental sadness in those eyes. It's as if that's another little girl altogether. Lemery gazes toward the sidewall, and I see the surface tension holding a tear. We didn't have much money, she says. Almost no one in town did. But my parents and grandmother saved enough extra to buy a really nice glove. It was a Warren Spahn autograph model, so I suppose it was a glove for a pitcher. But I didn't care. I only remember the cool leather against my face, and the smell. God, that smell meant baseball. I oiled it every day with Neat's Foot oil, and tied a baseball into the webbing each night to break it in, and create the pocket I dreamed would cradle 1,000,000 fly balls, scoop 1,000,000 grounders, pluck 1,000,000 screaming line drives out of the air. That meant more than the hat, was the symbol of my belonging on the team. Lemery strokes my arm lightly, and I am quiet. in the hands of a true storyteller, telling a true story. When I got to the field for our first game, I was so excited I thought I would throw up. I hadn't slept a wink the night before and spent the entire day throwing my baseball against the side of the garage, grossly exaggerating the speed of the grounders dribbling back as I snapped them into the merciless trap of my glove and threw the runner out. I didn't catch one ball in the warm-ups. They dropped to the right of me. They dropped to the left of me. They hit my arms and fell harmlessly to the grass. But I was just so happy to be there, to belong with these other kids with junior Oilers across their chests, that it didn't matter. When the coach called us into a huddle before the umpire yelled batter up, he went over our positions and the batting order one last time. But he didn't need to, for my sake, because I had memorized those things from the first practice. I batted ninth. I played right field. I knew what that meant. I knew I was the very worst hitter on the team and the very worst fielder. But I didn't care because I had a new glove and a green and gold uniform, and I belonged. We were the home team and batted the bottom half of the inning, so we touched our gloves together in the middle of the huddle and yelled, "Go Oilers!" and broke to take our positions. I was so proud. But before I got even to the baseline, Coach's hand was on my shoulder. And when I turned around, Ronnie Callender stood next to him. And he said, "I want you to give Ronnie your glove." I said, "What for?" He said, "He doesn't have one." Coach watched my face fall. I know he did. And I think he knew how I felt because he was very kind, but he said, "Cindy, if we're going to win this, Ronnie has to have a mitt. A shortstop has to have a mitt. That's just all there is to it." I looked at the glove on my hand. I bit my lower lip while I read Warren Spahn's name, and I handed it over. Coach told me to play as far back in right field as I could so no balls could get over my head, that I could run faster forward than backward, and sent me on my way. I walked so far back I almost disappeared into the playground swings beyond the field. Just that quick, I didn't belong, and I remember thinking something always has to spoil it. I was hurt and embarrassed, and I wanted to go back to being invisible me again. But I couldn't because I had on the green shirt and cap, and all of a sudden, that uniform was my enemy. I remember hating Ronnie Callender for being poor, and I hoped his father never got a job and they'd have to move away. Every game after that was miserable. I couldn't quit because we would only have 8 players and all the kids would hate me. Coach didn't always take my glove. In fact, I don't know that he ever took it again. But each time I walked down that hot, dusty summer road toward the playing field, I knew he might, that I didn't really belong because they could take my glove. Emma looks down at me, returning to the room from her story. That's what I thought about all the way back from Reno. I remembered how I truly wanted to die, and all I lost was a baseball glove. Sarah Burns lost the one thing she's been holding on to. Emery's story is the story of my fat little life. Life before swimming, before Ellerby, before Jody. You're worried, I say. You're afraid Sarah Burns has lost too much. She chuckles, but there is no humor. I am worried, she says. But I'll tell you, Moby. The sadness of this weekend has hit me hard. And I'll fight to the death to keep the things I'm worried about from happening. When the Nevada Highway Patrol pulled us over to tell us what had happened here with you and her dad, I saw a flash of the girl I drove down there with. I think it gave her energy to fight, but I don't know. It's a close call. At any rate, she agreed to tell me before doing anything rash, and I believe she will. That is one amazing kid, Moby. I see why you've always liked her. She's what courage is about. She certainly changed the way I look at my own life. Anyway, she's over at the house now with my husband, who was happy as a pig in shit because all my arguments about why he shouldn't have guns in the house just went down the toilet. Cops have the place staked out too, so at least she's safe. God, the one person who could save Sarah Burns won't do it. When my mother comes tonight to visit, I'm gonna hug her till she breaks. Chapter 17, Analysis. Not a lot happens in this chapter, but it doesn't make it any less impactful. The reason this is impactful is because this is a chapter about characters and about character development and about getting to know the motivations and about getting to understand characters better. And I think most of us root for the mom to be there, to be the hero, and we see that she's not. She doesn't have that kind of strength. And I think this book explores something that most books are unwilling to explore. Most stories are unwilling to explore, which is imperfect people. A lot of times when people write books or stories, they try to create a character that doesn't have flaws. And I think a lot of times it's because they are trying to create characters that make up for their own personal weaknesses as an author. So if you are a person who lacks discipline, you're going to write about a character who maybe is very disciplined, and it shows what you might want to be. And so to have an authentic character, a character who is very flawed, and Sarah Burns' mother is it feels almost strange because you just aren't used to it. On top of that, we hear about Lemry, and Lemry seems like, from the beginning of the story, a person who's very well put together and who is, very confident and who just kind of has figured out life. And in this chapter 17, we realize that her journey to understanding came at a price. Her wisdom came from pain. That as a child, she didn't have the easiest time, didn't have the easiest life, but she was able to navigate it, to turn some of that pain into something that made her stronger. And I think, to me, that's a really good message from this story. Finally, we see Mark Britton, and it's a little bit of a shock. I mean, Eric Calhoun doesn't really even know what to do. He doesn't know how to respond. He's trying to be supportive. At the same time, he doesn't know how to be supportive. And it sounds like Mark doesn't really know how to get his thoughts out yet. And I think that's also very realistic, that when someone attempts something like suicide, or someone has an emotional breakdown like Mark did, it's not going to be something that you fix right away. So there's a lot of emotion in this chapter. It's heavily charged, and the story just kind of takes a pause here, and it seems to charge up emotionally. And there's not a lot of time left in the story. So that tells you that something is probably going to have to happen for things to resolve. That's going to be fairly significant, because it can't work out any other way from a design perspective and writing. And I will tell you, it is pretty crazy. So buckle up, chapter 18, next.